Dusty, I want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule because I know you're a very busy businessman and a husband and a new dad. So I want to thank you for being here today. And as I kind of said before we went on air, I just want to thank you for, I so enjoy your Instagram posts because you have a great way of taking something for some people they get, uncomfortable with. And I think that you deliver great information, great content, and also it's something that's enjoyable. And I think a lot of people on health and well-being, they sometimes get all morbid about stuff. And I just like your attitude, and I think it makes a big difference for people. So
Yeah,
thank
I
you for
appreciate
that.
that. I appreciate that. Thank you. I enjoy having it, and giving an upside to the health and wellness and weight loss journey is kind of my motivation there. It's not all waking up and being depressed or happy with what the scale says. There's some enjoyment on this journey, so I try to provide some sort of content that's enjoyable. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it really makes a big difference. So let's put it this way. You are far from being a new sensation. And that's why I was really excited to talk to you because I followed you for quite a while. And what I love about what you've done, I mean, your transformation of weight loss has been ridiculous. It's been unbelievable. And the part where you're in the rare air of being somebody that's not only done that, but has maintained that weight loss, which has been great. And one of the things that I want to explore a little bit today is I love your whole strength training, cardio, just moving beyond, sometimes people get into losing weight and they just kind of like hanging in there, like, God forbid anything happens. It seems to be whatever happened for you in losing weight, like you really created a zest for life. And that's what's happened with you and your wife and now your daughter. And so that's where you are now. And the people that know you now obviously are inspired and they love following you. But I think it's also important for people to really get a sense of like where you were before. And so the first part of this, I'd like to have you kind of reflect upon, and I know I've seen it in, blog postings and podcasts that I've listened to. I would love you to share a little bit of what I would call the tail of your scale from when you were younger, because let's face it, you didn't get to be over 500 pounds just because you had not a great metabolism. There's something early on, and then for quite a while, you you beat me. I made the 435. You went to 5. So you beat me on that. But when you're at that kind of weight gain, there's something that's been going on forever. So take us back to early days. Like, where did that start for you? Like, do you know when that started? That whole either getting on a scale or dieting or any of that stuff?
I believe I do. The tale of my story, really, I was born 11 pounds. So I was born on Thanksgiving. So the nurses called me a butterball, which maybe set me up for not the best for the future. But, I was born big, but I remember quite a bit of events as I was a child that really kind of led to my food dependency, my emotional and stress eating, and really using food as a cope. Anywhere from being the size that I was on a school campus. I don't know why, but in elementary school, they weighed you in front of all the kids and had your weight out for everyone to see. And one of the biggest memories that I have is stepping on the scale and getting off and then realizing that I'm the biggest kid in school. In my head, I'm saying that, but someone actually says it out loud to the whole class, wow, you're the fattest kid in school. And so that starts to take a toll on
Yep.
me not being able to connect or really get any friends on the school campus, not really relating with anybody, but essentially being the butt of everyone's joke because of my weight and having different interactions from, eighth grade, not being picked on the basketball team, even though I was very good. I grew up in Los Angeles. I was a big fan of Kobe Bryant. So I remember really working on my basketball game, showing up for practice, showing up for the tryouts. I think I won the 3-point contest on the tryout and not
Wow.
being picked for the team. And, a lot of the other players that made the team said, hey, coach, it was obvious that he did really well. Why didn't you pick him? And the PE coach being very clear, I don't want a fat kid on my basketball team. And so those things got back to me. And, I really believe that maybe my parents' divorce played a factor. I went from having a home where my parents were together, and then when they separated and they got a divorce, I went from spending one night at one parent's house and then the next night going to another parent's house. And a lot of my childhood kind of playing the peacekeeper between them
Yeah.
both. If one would say one thing about the other, I'd go back and forth and try to keep peace. And so out of all that turmoil, food became a very easy way to feel good in the midst of not so feel good times. And there were a lot of interactions that I had as a child that didn't really support me having a good, healthy eating habits. I mean, really, I took Slim Fast as a kid. And I took Slim Fast as a kid because I thought that Slim Fast would burn the food that I was already eating.
Mm.
So I would eat what I would regularly be eating, but also Slim Fast. And for some reason in my mind, I thought the fat burning was happening with Slim Fast. So I didn't have food education. It's not like I picked all of my meals. A lot of the meals were put in front of me, but just the stress of life, the stress of broken relationships, the stress of not being able to really connect with anybody on the schoolyard, all led me to having this kind of cope or this alleviancy with food, and that just didn't stop. That went back and forth. I always knew I needed to lose weight. It's not, you hear on social media sometimes, well, you need to lose weight. I know I need to lose weight. I know I needed to lose weight, but I have been given a roadmap since a child to go about this certain way when dealing with a stress, an emotion, something tumultuous in my life. I have this roadmap on how to deal with it, and that was with food. And so it really built into a food addiction. I ended up gaining up to 300 pounds, then dropping weights. In high school, joining the football team, losing 45 pounds and being so proud, but football season was over and gaining 100 pounds. And then again, going on a crash diet and going back, trying the diets that you see on TV, the diets that you see on magazines. So getting to, and I eventually got to 534 pounds. I got there because of bad food education, a food addiction, stress, emotional eating, all kinds of things that put me in a bad headspace in dealing with the issues of life. I mean, we've all got obstacles. I dealt
Yeah.
with my obstacles with food. Food felt good. It felt good just to sit there and dive into I was having 13,000 calories a day at my top weight. And it was just easy because I can sit in my car and enjoy the food without anybody judging or looking at me, or I don't have to make the food happy. It's making me happy. So, really the tale of my story was just never really understanding how to have a proper relationship with food and allowing that improper food relationship to really affect my mental health, my emotional health, and really develop into this food addiction that gripped me mentally. And, I've spoken about again and again that, yes, I physically lost 320 pounds. The 300 pounds is gone, but mentally, that's where the work really had to be done.
Right.
I really had to, really, the tale of my story, I really had to come to terms with the problem that is the underlying issue, which was my relationship with food, my mental health relationship, food addiction. So, getting to 534 pounds was eye-opening. Lot of issues that came with that. Very stern warnings from my doctor that I probably wouldn't be around in 6 months from our last appointment that I had. And so really getting to that weight was not the plan. But I'm very grateful that weight has been lost, and that weight is something that I've been able to maintain for years now, because where I was, I can't see myself going back there. Not because, the weight's gone, that means everything's fixed. No, it's because I dealt with the actual underlying foundational issues. And I feel like my relationship with food is a lot better and it's improved so that I can continue to process the obstacles of life. It's not like the weight goes, the obstacles go. No, the obstacles are still there, maybe even worse now.
Yeah.
But now addressing those obstacles by not harming myself with food, but putting myself in a position to protect the length of life and how long I'm going to be around. And it's been a journey so far. It's not done yet. I still got plenty of skin to remove, but nonetheless, I've made it this far, and I'm very grateful.
Did you have anyone I know you mentioned about your parents' divorce, and that's always something that's challenging and is very tough for people. Did you come from a family of people that were overweight and eating, or was that, or were you like the Lone Ranger of that?
So my mom was very, very thin. She was a blonde hair, very light green eyed Cuban. And my dad was a fanny pack, short wearing Canadian. And so, you know, how a Canadian and a Cuban got together. Well, here I am. But my dad was always small, always into walking, running. My mom was very, very thin as she grew up. As she began to have kids, she put on more weight. So as I came to an understanding, I remember my mom being a little bit overweight. She ended up going through her own, you know, weight loss transformation. She got up to over 400 and lost a
Wow.
significant amount. But as a child, I always kind of knew that my mom was bigger, that my dad was always someone that liked running, and that I was kind of I didn't feel like, oh, this is the reason,
Right.
but I kind of felt like I was the odd man out as far as my weight.
Yeah, that's always one of the tough things that happens is that family environment sometimes precipitates that. The other question I had for you, when any of us are gaining a lot of weight, sometimes, and I know for myself it didn't go well, sometimes people, either friends or family or other people, kind of like, we know what's going on, but we like, they'll decide there's some kind, they're going to help us. Or I have people come to me sometimes and say, I would love you to talk to such and such. And I'm like, that's not an easy thing to do. Did you ever have anybody in your family come to you and they said, Dusty, like, you got to do something? Or was it like they never brought it up and it just was like one of the things in silence?
Yeah, I would definitely say that folks in my family brought it up. A lot of folks in the schoolyard, a lot of folks in outside the family brought it up. Walking home from middle school one day, someone yelling out the car window, "Lose weight, fatty!" It's like, okay, got it. I think I know. But in the family, there were a lot of suggestions. There were a lot of, you've got to take care of your weight. You're pretty heavy. I remember hearing that, you're pretty heavy and you've really got to take care of your health and you've got to really take care of that. It was, there were statements. There were plenty
Yeah.
of statements, from family and outside the family. It wasn't a roadmap. Biggest struggle was, well, how do I start? Well, how do I do it? So there was a lot of statements of you need to, but there was never really a roadmap on how to. So that's what really led me into the extreme diets, the yo-yo dieting, the trying this, trying that, because I wanted to try and I wanted to get to the point of losing weight. And I went through bouts of losing 125 pounds, but then gaining all of it back and then more. So I went through a lot of cycles and there were a lot of comments along the way and a lot of statements, but there really wasn't ever a roadmap for me to really, I guess, push it to or get into it too far.
Well, it's not a secret because you've shared it before. I mean, for you, you had that inciting incident from the doctor and suggested you need to do something. You ended up having gastric bypass surgery, and some people think that that's easy. I'm only a student of trying to understand the whole world of dieting and gastric bypass surgery, all kinds of things that people do. All I know is that there's a whole world of people, not unlike what happened with people on Biggest Loser or people that are on Weight Watchers or XYZ, that lose a boatload of weight and gain it back. And so you also not only, like I said, you not only lost the weight and maintained it, but then you moved beyond and done also from a physical perspective much more than some people do. What is it for you that you would suggest, like if somebody is going to get gastric bypass surgery or they've had it, like what was it? I mean, I know you did what you did, but it's your head that kept you in the game. So what is it about you, Dusty? Or was the support? Was it like what was it that's allowed you to stay in that mindset? Because you could have gained that weight back again. Just because you had that surgery, that doesn't mean it. You know that they could have go back. So how did you? What is it that you've done that's helped you with that?
Yeah, the doctor was very clear with me, like, hey, listen, this is a tool, but there are plenty that have sat in my office that have lost 20 pounds and gained it all back and then some. I have had some lose a significant amount of weight and then slowly ticker it back up. So you're not immune to the gain back, or you're not immune to having to maintain it. And for me, the very beginning of it was very difficult. And I came to a point, and I think it was about 6 months in, where I got very emotional with, this is all I can eat today.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, I remember walking out of the room and I got very emotional. And I kind of used that as a real pivoting moment of me really understanding that, wow, this isn't just about food. Like,
Mm.
this isn't just, oh, you look at this restaurant. I mean, take the food out of the equation. The issue is me. The issue is my mental ability to process what's happening in life in a way that doesn't harm me. And so, really doing the mental work. I always talk about how therapy is so important. A lot of what therapy is identifying triggers, identifying attitudes, identifying relationships with food, and then finding alternatives from that. For me, it was a very hard road. My wife was extremely helpful support along the way. She was someone that set me up for success. One of the things that I do is in the very beginning is that I set aside a pantry area that was strictly just for my stuff. And so I wouldn't be lured by the other part of the pantry or the fridge where the stuff would not help me be successful in the beginning. But I had this one area, and she set that up for me. There were things that she wouldn't bring in the house. She was very supportive and was really a good accountability for me. But I think for me, the surgery is my story in the sense of how I started. And for me, it's really been a point of understanding that there's going to be comments about the easy way out. I can spend forever and a day explaining how it isn't, but I think that the real understanding for me is I got to a point and it got so bad that I had to have surgery. And I remember waking up from my surgery being terrified because the where I woke up from, it was yellow, dingy tile. I think they were remodeling, but there were 3 or 4 people next to me groaning in pain when I woke up.
Oh,
And I remember waking up feeling like I'm in a Saw horror film. I'm like, I'm not an actor and I didn't sign up for a horror film. So can I not like wake up like this? And I think
wow.
it really scared me. It really scared me that it got so bad that I had to have surgery and that I had to, have my insides access just to help what was going on, give me a tool. And so for me, that's really been a driving force of I've got to deal with the mental stuff, with using stress and emotions as like using food as a coping mechanism for that is finding alternatives in that and saying, you know what, can I go for a 10-minute walk? Can I journal? Can I talk things out? Can I have a conversation? That, therapy, when I talk about that being powerful, can I begin to rewire and let things out that are bothering me and bugging me? Can I begin to work through things that are not associated with food? The box breathing technique was something that I started putting into practice, mindful meditation, a lot of things that helped me process stress and emotions and the obstacles of life so that food wasn't the go-to for that stuff, but it was a resource to make me better, not a crutch to make me worse. And food education, I would say, would go hand in hand with that. Understanding the priority of protein in your diet, understanding what your daily calorie limit is, and the thermic effect of food. All this stuff has been around for quite a while. I just didn't know about it. I just didn't have too much information about a lot of this stuff. So doing the doing the grunt work of researching, getting my health coach certification, doing a lot of the stuff that it takes for me to really grab onto this and now maintain it for almost 6 years. And that's been really huge. And that's something I really talk about. And it's in my bio on Instagram that mental health is the key, that you can lose 50 pounds physically, but if you don't lose 50 pounds mentally, then mentally you're just working off of something to where it's just going to get your body physically back to where you are mentally. So it's having those tough conversations on why we get emotional about things. Is there unresolved issues within me that I need to work out? Do I need to find a form of an outlet to help alleviate some of the stress? The gym, walking, a lot of that stuff has been a good outlet for me on my journey.
You're a perfect person for what I would call the poster person for going beyond the scale. And that was really the reason why I wanted to kind of create this format, because you've done that and are doing that. And that is, because a lot of times people will ask any of us, what can I do? And I think that the part that at least finally we're starting to get more people to understand, I rarely get into conversations about food and really not that much on exercise, because at least for me, I know my change and transformation was always mental. And in your particular case, what I hear is you've been doing that almost on steroids in terms of like really it's in your literally it's in your gut and you understand it, and it's such a missing ingredient that when people think about their weight loss and they're worried about the number on the scale. The other thing you and I've talked about before, I think the other part that you understand also because you spend time working out as well, your body composition. Yes, you weighed a number, but as we talked about, you've also understood why it's important to understand your body composition, because so many people, they focus, one of my trusty little fat pieces here, they focus on this part, which is the part that, when you weigh 534 pounds, you think you're 534 pounds of this, but then you don't know how much of this is there, which is your muscle. And what I love about what you've done is everything that I've read as a layperson is just the same thing you're trying to understand and have education. The main difference, cardio is important. It's always important, but the strength training is so powerful, and you exhibit that and share that in a whole world of ways that you've done that. And also what I read and have seen you do, you've created your own, you've eliminated the excuse that you don't have time to go somewhere. So tell us a little bit about the home gym that you created. And I think you call it, was it Dusty's 5, what those are?
So I've got a Dusty 5. It's essentially kind of a 5-station high intensity interval training circuit. It's essentially 30 seconds at a particular workout station. You give yourself a short break of about 10 to 15 seconds, and then you go right into something else. The nice thing about it is that it's 5 random different workouts every single day. So that boring kind of approach into the fitness lifestyle is kind of taken care of, because now you can incorporate random things into that 5 stations. And currently, like in the morning, I'm posting different things from using a weighted ball. Sometimes I'll use my TerraCore in my dip station at home. I'll use the TRX cables in the little TRX studio. I'll use a platform. Any 5 stations doing as much as I possibly can in 30 seconds is what I've kind of geared everything around, because it allows all levels of fitness, whether you're just starting or whether you're experienced, that if you're doing your best for 30 seconds, that's all that's needed. It's your best. So if somebody can do 12 box jumps in the 30 seconds, great. If you can do 2, if you're doing the most that you can, you're doing the most you can, you're doing fantastic. So, I mean, I had a fitness app reach out to me and have the actual program built into a 12-week program, which for me, coming from 534 pounds mentally, it's like, I did on the first call with this company. Do you guys just making sure you wanted me, right? And so I was still a little bit shocked, and still shocked today that they consider me one of their athletes. And I'm like, no, I'm 534. Oh, I'm not 534 pounds. So it's still a mind trip. But, going back to the strength training, I think strength training has a lot to do with the mental health side of things, because just doing cardio and just going for just losing the number on the scale, like, sure, you can go for that. But when we talk about body composition, tone, form, fits, that's going to come from strength training. And strength training at times will actually take a little bit longer than just straight cardio. So when you talk about the journey itself, it's like, well, I just want to get to 225 pounds. I just want to get there, whatever I've got to do. It's like, well, if you incorporate strength training, it might take a little bit longer because now strength training is involved. But when you get to your 225, you're not going to look 225. You're going to look smaller than that. But also now you're going to have a fit and form, and you're going to be able to have structure to your body and not just have, the weight loss. And that's one comment I get a lot is, I mentioned my weight, and a lot of folks say, oh, you look different. The reason I look smaller than I am is because a lot of the muscle tone that's come about on my journey has been about since I've prioritized strength training versus everything else. So I really think strength training is kind of the essential, and it's something that really combats I've just got to lose it all right now. It's like, hold on, slow down. This is a forever body that you're working on. This is a forever what you want to do. So if it's going to take an extra month, an extra 3 months for you to arrive to a position to where your body is in more of a lean muscle tone, it's worth it, because that's going to last longer. It's going to give you better structure. I'm going to need muscle tone because my legs, my joints, my knees went through a lot carrying all the weight that it did. So I've got to strengthen my muscle so that I can continue to hold myself and position myself and not just lose the weight to get to a number on the scale. It's much more than a number on the scale. Body fat percentage, visceral fat are probably better indicators, if not are better indicators than the BMI, because
Oh
Really,
yeah.
the BMI is just a calculation of your height and weight, nothing else. It doesn't consider why I'm 15% body fat or if I have this much lean muscle. Really, that comes down to your visceral fat, the excess weight around your organs, and your body fat percentage. If those are in line rather than your BMI, you're in a lot better position to be around longer. And at the end of the day, that's what it's about, being around longer, not just, I'm going to get to this weight for this wedding. It's like, well, we can get to this weight for this wedding, but what about for the rest of your life, especially when you have kids and family that you need to be around for? Thinking long term is a real big deal in the journey.
I love the term for your forever body. I think that's a really great term to use. The other question I had was, I also love the mantra that you have, which is, and you kind of described it in your own way, where you say, find a way. What inspired that find a way? I love that.
Find a Way really came about from, it really solidified. I remember saying it when I was 500 pounds. I remember going to an escape room, and I have a video of it. I went to an escape room and I sat in the car and I was like, you know what? They give you all these obstacles and all these things, and you just got to find a way through it. And I remember reading, like listening to that, and just like, wow, I say that now, but it's so much different that no matter the obstacles that are in front of me, no matter what is going on around me, I've got to find a way to push through. I've got to find a way to make it happen. You know, when the pandemic hit and the gym shut down, the gym was a solace for me. It was a place where I could
Yeah.
go and use it as an outlet. It became therapy. Well, when the gym shut down, am I just going to sit back and let whatever happens happen? I couldn't. So I had to find a way. So I ended up taking half of my garage. I got some wood from Home Depot, some gas pipes, some cables and wires and screws and plates, and I built a homemade squat rack made out of wood. It was something cost effective. I think it was like $50 to build it. And I built it right there in my garage. And week by week, I added one little thing, you know, the clamps that you use for
Mhm.
a pulley for something else. I'm like, well, I can attach weight onto here. And you know what? Water jugs, if each water jug filled up is 40 pounds, well, I can duct tape that to a gas bar. And that's technically me deadlifting or squatting 80 to 95 pounds. So all of a sudden now I'm in my garage when the gyms are shut down, still working out, still finding a way to take care of myself and put health as my priority. And so find a way has really been the mantra and been kind of my whole essence, is that I don't know your circumstance. I don't know your obstacle. I don't know what's sitting in front of you right now, but we've all got obstacles. We've all got chaos at times running around us, but we're responsible for finding a way through those. That when there perceivably is no way, we've got to find a way. We've got to find a way, because it's not only just for those around us and our family, but it's for ourselves. Like, I mean, once this life is done, that's it. That's all. Like, we get to this life once. Like, I get to live this once. I mean, technically, today is the only today I'm going to get. Hey, next year I might get the same date, but I'm never going to get this day again. So making the most of this day and living the best way that I can comes from me putting my health as a priority. Not being able to tie my shoes, not being able to go on roller coasters, taking 2 airplane seats, so many things I was limited by being over 500 pounds, that now I'm not limited by those things. And it's because I had to find a way to put my health as a priority, so that way I can do the things like play with my daughter and crawl around on the ground. I don't know how many times she's dropped her pacifier and I've had to do a lunge to pick it up. But like, I wouldn't be able to do that at 500 pounds. Like, I would put her down, or I'd probably barely be able to hold her. I maybe would be able to just lay on the ground and roll back and forth. I've got a video of that, me playing with my nephew. I'm rolling back and forth and just flying my hand around to see if I can try to play with them. And that's just no way for my daughter to have a father in her life and raise her. So finding a way is not just for those around us, but it's for ourselves, and to really remove the limitations of us not being able to do things.
I think, you know, I know you have a lot of things that you've already done and accomplished and you've been successful with, and who knows, you know, maybe you'll do it in the future. But I have to tell you that if you ever get around to writing a book, that term "find a way" is so powerful, because it literally is just, it's, and you know this now because you're a dad, and I can only tell you because my kids are older, 39 and 33, and when as your daughter grows, and if you have other children as well, the thing that happens, and we don't tend to do it for ourselves sometimes, but we'll find a way for people that we love, and we'll take care of them. And I think what you've gotten, which is going to be great for your wife and also for your daughter, is because you got that burnt into you now, that you showed and demonstrated and still do that, finding a way that no matter what's going to come up, whatever challenge is going to happen for you, you're going to find a way for them as well. So I think that that's such, Dusty, that's such a powerful thing for people to get and hear. And what I love, what's behind that is it's just personal responsibility. When you say find a way, there's no excuse there. It's not a money excuse. It's not a time excuse. It's when you describe what you did with the gym. I mean, it's a perfect example. And I think the quality of it you didn't have to make it a particular way. You just used your brain, your resourcefulness. And I think that's really what's behind why you've been so successful. Somewhere along the line, that's just clicked in you, and you're obviously living it in all you're doing. And I have to imagine, I know this is a sidebar, but I've got to imagine, if we put on our business hat, that your ability to be more effective and influential in your job would happen because of the way that you've created your life as well. Would that be true?
Yes, yeah. Business wise, I started off actually working out in the field where I had to physically be out in the field and work with, customers, clients and stuff like that. And it really was a physically demanding job. And I remember one of the very first meetings with my, new manager, there was kind of that look of there's a potential concern there of you being able to really fulfill your obligations in business. And so that's really something that's helped a lot as well. And my ability to present, confidence that goes into it, and really, and there will never really be evidence of this, but opportunities and growth within business and opportunities with, meeting with folks. I feel like those opportunities have expanded, and it's really helped kind of in the corporate world as well. Me being able to meet with customers, clients, or perform the job that I need to, what provides for the house on a day-to-day basis. So that's really impacted it as well. And I guess go real quick on the find a way. Find a way doesn't mean it's perfect, and find a way doesn't mean it's all figured out. It's you find a way, and if it doesn't work out, you learn from that and then build upon it. And find a way is really the word resilience has to be right there with find a way, because it's like, hey, I can find a way and build a homemade garage, but what if all of a sudden the bracket breaks and I somewhat get harmed from the elastic band snapping me in the face? It's like, well, I found a way to work out, but I certainly found a way to get a welt on my face as well. So it's not perfect, but I think resilience is huge and really important. So if anybody's going to find a way, just know that some snapping elastic bands may be in the future as well.
Well, you also found a way after I don't know if it was how far you were, but you found your girlfriend, now your wife, and now also your dad. And so it's also, I think one of the things that I've seen with people that have been successful, you obviously have the kind of relationship where you're both, once again, I'm sure it's not perfect, but you're supporting each other. And I've seen that's been such a major factor. That's one of the things that happens a lot of times with certain families or people in families, where when somebody starts to make a change, the others feel as if you're leaving them behind and you're judging. You're not even saying anything, you're judging them. What was the genesis was for your wife as well, for Raquel as well? What was it for her that she decided to do the same type of thing, and then you guys are both together, I guess, keep supporting each other in that growth process?
Yeah, so my journey started in 2016 and getting up to 534 pounds and really having the alarms go off that I need to do something. I think the sleep apnea was probably one of the biggest alarm clocks as far as, hey, you might pass away in your sleep pretty quickly. My doctor was very honest with me. And so starting to take care of my health, my wife was right there alongside me. Well, my wife had been struggling a long time with PCOS, and with PCOS and the hormone condition, it made it very difficult for her to lose weight. But there were a lot of things that were just combating her building a consistency. And so she had struggled as well, but she was an amazing support for me in 2016. So being that support for me and going through the process of wanting to have kids was a real focus point for us. Well, once I started kind of really addressing the things that I needed to get through as far as getting the food education, dealing with the emotional and stress issues, it was almost a roadmap or a helpful source for my wife as well as my mom to kind of see that it's possible and that it can be done. And my wife has mentioned that a couple times, that if I've seen him go through what he's gone through and battled what he's battled through, I can go through it as well. So she started meeting with the doctor, and she actually elected to have the gastric bypass as well in 2018. And it drastically changed things for her. And that a lot of the flare-ups that she was having from PCOS, a lot of things that were really not helping on her journey of trying to conceive, but also her weights, a lot of that was assisted and helped after the bypass. And so she was able to drop over 100 pounds. And soon after we got the clearance, once her weight was lost, she was able to get pregnant. And December of 2020, we welcomed our little girl. And, our little girl, we've been dreaming and hoping and wishing for her, praying for her for over 7 years.
Wow.
And to really have the opportunity now to see her run around and hold my finger, it's been a remarkable journey of find a way. But there are benefits to find a way. It's tough. It's rough. It's not easy waking up in the morning, half the eyes open. It's not like every morning I'm feeling super pumped up to go and I'm just, it's gym time. No, most of the time I'm unmotivated. A lot of the times this journey is very boring and repetitive, but there are moments that are very gratifying to it. And one of the biggest ones for my wife and I was having our little girl. And I think my journey really was the starting off points, really kind of helping show and assist and provide a roadmap on that it could be done even in our own household. And then my wife soon following suit after that. And now me taking that supportive role of being there for her as she was there for me. And so it really came kind of full circle for us that while we were both, right before we found out we were pregnant, we both came to a point where there were a lot of things that we had to deal with. There were a lot of relationships that we had to work through and a lot of mental health, but also there was a lot of food education. Really the priority of protein, looking out for the processed and added sugar, a lot of that stuff we know now.
Right.
But back then we didn't know. You turn over and read a label and it's like, wow, this has got 4 grams of protein. It's fantastic. Yes, but it's also got 65 grams of sugar. So it's not really protein pancakes. Well, there's like 5 times as much sugar. So a lot of that stuff we just didn't know. And so now it's knowing that when we walk into a store, knowing that food is designed to help us thrive and not just to satisfy, and really now transitioning and moving that towards helping that with our little girl. Having that understanding of the food that's going to help her thrive, and not just food because it's on the shelf, really being mindful with what we give her and the quality of food that we give her. That's really made a big difference in our journey. My wife and I's, especially that food education, battling the mental health and overcoming PCOS and pushing through it. And that's really been kind of the tale of both of us, is finding a way, but kind of learning to find a way and kind of trying to perfect it every day. Not arriving, we haven't arrived. We've got a little girl. No, we've got to maintain this. I've got to be the dad that can be there for her and put her on my shoulders and stuff like that. So it's been a very gratifying journey, but hard work nonetheless.
One of the things I want to be able to do, and when I say wrap it up, it's not like we're done, but when I say wrap it up, what I love is that, look, you're not hard to find your story. People can Google you and find, and hopefully from this, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to hear, there's people that still don't know about you. So there's going to be somebody who's going to hear your story, and they can Google you, they can listen to podcasts, they can see when you were both on the Today Show, all of those things. At the same extent, what I found is a lot of times people are like, okay, well, I'm really inspired. What's something I can do? And I think, Find a Way is a great example of that, is an attitude and a methodology. But what I also want to do is, I know from looking at some of the things, I just want to kind of run down some of the things that are your favorites and things that you're doing. You also have Journey to Fit. That's the app, right?
Yeah, that's the Fit app. It's through the Fit app. It's actually a program. It's a 12-week workout program built around that Dusty 5. But there's also a meal plan in there. There's a lot of mental health videos. So a lot of things that I speak to about mental health, there are videos built into the program that speak to about different things on mental health. And then a lot of it has to do with food education. A lot of it is information that I learned along the way that really helped me position myself to make the better food choices when I'm walking into a store and reading labels, and what's carb cycling, what is the ketogenic diet, all these different things, and can I benefit from certain things? You know, when I go to the shelves and I look at something that's keto, I know that the keto priority is oftentimes protein and oftentimes fat with a very minimal amount of carbs and sugar. Well, I will take a look at keto. It's not that I am keto, but
Right.
I know if they're minimizing processed and added sugar, that might be something that I can incorporate. I'm not, you know, saying carbs are bad. I'm going to need
Right.
carbs for strength training, but learning those different things and having the food education is kind of how that app was built out, is trying to give as much as I can in one place so that someone could access it through the app, pull it up, and have it readily available and not just have to wait for another coaching call to learn something. They've all got it right there through the program. So that's something that's been out for about a year, a little bit more than a year now.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that information? It's on your Instagram account, but is that everything that I found on? Is that through Linktree? That link in there?
Yes, yeah. The link in my bio on Instagram will take
Okay.
you to at the very top link, takes you to the Journey of Fit. And it's pretty much a homepage that breaks down what the program is going to look like. And then it gives you a little bit of a preview of what's in there. A lot of the workouts that I post and I save on my Instagram save stories, a lot of those 5-station workouts are in my program and some of them are not. A lot of my hit station workouts, my Dusty 5, sometimes are very random just because it keeps it very new and fresh for me. And part of the app itself, it's got over 100 exercises. Let me just say that's a workout, filming the exercises.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't need to go to the gym today. I'm pretty much doing a full body workout multiple times. So there's a lot of exercises and workouts in there that you can incorporate.
So you have the Journey to Fit, which is the app. You have also, you do one-on-one coaching as well, right?
Yeah, I've got accountability coaching. This is essentially something that I wanted in the beginning. Like, I don't know what to do, or I'm having a stall, or I have questions. It's essentially someone that's been there that can just talk through things with you and help strategize the future, maybe even talk about and relate with some of the mental health issues. You know, I don't want to take the place of a therapist or a psychologist. I always want to make sure I put that out there. But sometimes you're just looking at someone to talk to and someone to relate with. And the conversations that I've had with folks have really validated why it's in place, because there's been something where I've only lost 3 pounds this week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm consistently always losing 7 pounds.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, let's look at last week. Last week you lost 10, and this week you lose 7. So if you span it out over the past 6 weeks, you're averaging the same amount. So yes, it was a low week, but let's strategize here. You're doing a great job. The last 6 weeks, you've consistently done this number. So don't hold your head down low. Don't give up. Don't be discouraged. You're doing fine. And so it's a voice that's been there and that is there to kind of help out and assist wherever I can.
I've watched you use the TerraCore fitness unit. What gives, like, there's a lot of stuff that you're interested in. What is it about that you really enjoy?
That it's actually right behind me. It's something that is one thing I'm learning, especially with now moving to the South and our recent snow ventures here. We moved here and our home inspector was like, oh, we get a light dusting. And then like the first storm that comes in, there's like 3 or 4 inches. Like, honey, is this a light dusting? Because if we get anything more than this, like what's going on? So what's nice is that sometimes the gym isn't available and sometimes the gym isn't something that I can go to. So I like the TerraCore because first, I feel like at my top weight, the bubble on top can hold me, and which I was very nervous about.
Yeah.
But it's very versatile. I saw it on Shark Tank and saw the kind of feasibility with it. And doing something at home is something I didn't know I would really like working out from home, but when the pandemic hit and I started building my own garage and find a way equipment, the more I can now do at home, I like. And to be honest, because I have a desk job and I sit a lot of the times, oftentimes getting up there and standing on that for a couple minutes or doing a couple easy, quick workouts with some elastic bands, it kind of just breaks up the monotony of sitting all day and helps kind of introduce blood flow, especially during the desk job. So I've been using that for I think over a year, and I've got a couple videos where I've been able to jump on it and then fly afterwards. And for someone who was 500 pounds, any kind of flying is pretty fun and really cool. So if you do see me at the gym and I'm doing some weird workouts or like handstands against the wall, it's because I never could as a child. And I'm just kind of reliving or trying to live out some things that I could never do before. So
I love that. I did notice that I am a big fan, like you are, obviously, of Built Bars. I think they are just like They're so amazing. So
Yeah, they are definitely in my, when I talk about food education, it's finding alternatives. That's huge for me. Finding something like a protein bar that is low in sugar, high in protein. So going to Costco and understanding the difference between the 4 protein bars that they present to you, and then looking at like Fit Crunch and stuff like that. Well, when I found Built Bar, it was just a completely different taste. It was more of a candy
yeah,
bar feel. And so it was very easy for me to incorporate that in my journey. And I'm not a big fan of Quest bars. I've never really been a fan just because a lot of them just taste the same. There are a
yeah,
couple that I can enjoy, but really coming from the Quest is the only option, and then starting to expand and seeing some different ones like the IQ bars or Built Bar and stuff like that. It's kind of in my repertoire of go-to items when I need a snack or if I want a protein bar. There are things that I've kind of built, and Built Bar is definitely one of them.
I think one of the things I want to highlight that you just mentioned there, is it's even back to your Dusty Five, is the fact that a lot of people that start to make some changes and lose weight, they get too robotic and they keep
Mhm.
doing the same things and then they don't realize it, but they get bored with it. So what I'm hearing, a lot of what you've talked about is you don't just have this one linear way to go about it. The random nature and keeping things interesting definitely helps with the whole brain thing that I think a lot
Yeah.
of people don't get. They just like eat the same thing, same thing. And then I also learned that metabolically, like the same thing with strength training, if you do the same exercises the same way, you will not get an adaptive response. So you've got to change it up with your food and textures and tastes and all that stuff. So I think that's kind of a Dusty find the way to you find a lot of ways,
Sometimes
a lot of,
sometimes these stalls or plateaus that we
yeah,
experience have to do with we're just doing the same thing and our body's not challenged, and our body's very good at adapting,
yeah,
very good at adjusting to what we're doing. You can be in an extreme, like a terrible situation, and eventually it doesn't get as terrible because your body adapts and
yeah.
gets, you stand all day at work, eventually your body's going to get adapted to you standing all day at work. On the same way, any kind of workouts, any kind of nutrition, if you're doing the same thing, your body's not going to really move much. So really the Dusty Five, the nutrition, stuff like that, it's keeping things active, keeping things moving. It keeps things guessing. And I've seen a lot of research about how interval training has been very effective. And so really, I think my life is just an interval. It's a constant interval of either strength training or nutrition. And it's kept things, I'm coming upon 6 years since I started my journey, and I'm still going, and I don't feel like I'm going to quit. I don't feel like I've had enough. Things are still going. Things are still active. I'm still maintaining, and even through the chaos of life, still maintaining. And it's really having to do with mixing it up and keeping it fresh, keeping it active, not just getting used to the same thing, but be willing to try something else. And if it's something that you can incorporate, great. If not, then at least you tried it. So.
The one other thing that for any of us that have had a lot of weight is the old loose skin, and you have your loose skin guide. So, where are you in the whole loose skin world? I mean, give us a little idea about what you're doing and what you've done.
Yeah, the Play-Doh or the pizza dough. I've got pizza dough for I've got about 7 to 10 pounds of skin, anywhere from my arms to my midsection to my chest, also my legs as well. Now my legs and arms are not as bad than what I was expecting, especially doing a lot of Google searches in the very beginning of my journey of what loose skin would look like. I think because a lot of the muscle tone, a lot of the strength training,
Right.
there is spot fat reduction, but because of the muscle mass in my arm and legs, I've been able to expand in a way where the excess skin isn't as much. But there's nothing I could have done about my chest and my stomach area. I mean, I was carrying a majority of my weight in my midsection, and it came to a point where there was almost like a roundabout area. I always laugh in the movie Shallow Hal. The Seinfeld character, he talks about having a little tail, and he shows Jack Black at the very end his little tail. I almost had like a little tail growing of
Yeah.
excess weight to where no longer could my weight go forward. It started going backwards. And so I've just got a good layer of skin that I can pull out and move side to side. In order for me to find the abs that I've tried to work for, I'll have to pick up the skin and move it to the side. So I've got about 7 to 10 pounds of skin. The loose skin guide that I put together, I was very careful with that because there is very much the like, there's nothing you can, I mean, a lot of it has to do with genetics and it has to do with that
Right.
individual person as far as the elasticity. But me building the Loose Skin Guide was, I'm the 2.5 years that I was sharing my journey, I'm getting a lot of questions that there are some things that you can do to try to help improve the area. Like when I talk about hair loss during weight loss, there isn't like this chia seed pudding that you can put on your hair for it to grow. But like soil, if you give your plants the right soil, you're going to put it in the best condition to grow back. Well, for me, my Loose Skin Guide is based out of, hey, I took a picture of myself about every 1 to 2 months from 534 pounds all the way down to, you know, my lowest weight. And so I have a documentation of pictures in the exact same stance and the exact same position of showing what it looks like of where I was to where I am now. So that way, if somebody is coming into this wanting to know what it's going to realistically look like, they've got a guide on what someone losing 300 pounds, what that transformation looks like, what the muscle definition looks like sitting on a body. And then the first portion of it, it talks about things that I've done to help with rashes, because you've got skin overlapping in areas, rashes,
Yep.
and self-care is very important. So what I've done there to try to help with that. And then trying to minimize the look, different compression clothing recommendations. You know, one thing that I did from the very beginning was directly or right after I got out of the shower, I put vitamin E oil on my skin. Well, the pores are open right after the shower. So if I can put vitamin E oil, it's not like all of a sudden the skin's going to tighten up because of the vitamin E oil. It's not going to do that. There's no foolproof plan or magic pill you can take. But if I can put my skin in the best condition possible, if I can keep it hydrated, keep it in the best state, that if it is going to, you know, come back, or if it is going to settle, I'm going to put it in the best position to settle. And so my Loose Skin Guide is pretty much, hey, this is the best way that I've tried to put my loose skin, and here's an example of what it looks like. And I've been very grateful, especially again, 534 pounds. You're Googling what loose skin would look like after losing 300 pounds. I'm very surprised on how much my skin hasn't looked like what I expected it to look like, on how some folks do, like, you've had loose skin surgery. I haven't had any kind of loose skin surgery, but having those comments, it's almost validating to taking care of the skin, that there isn't a comment of, oh, you've got loose skin. So I will definitely be getting the surgery rather quickly. I'm essentially going to be getting a chest lift. The debate right now is whether to reposition the nipple or to just completely get rid of it and tattoo a nipple, because I just don't want a pepperoni nipple, or for it to expand or do different sizes. And then the midsection, they've talked about hip to hip, but a lot of doctors have said that because my midsection carried so much, that they would likely need to do an upside down T, where it's hip to hip and up the middle and almost close it like a curtain. But I've got a lot of extra skin on my back. I guess one last note is I can't lift a certain way because of the loose skin on my back, and it's something that not many people come across. But as soon as I get 2 plates on the bench, my skin will slide back and forth on the bench. And so I can't put too much weight. I've gone to about a 45 and a 25 for bench, I think like 150 to 180. But as soon as I get a little bit heavier, I'm lifting and then I'll slide. And when you're lifting, you need to be stable. You need to be in a firm position. And if you're sliding back and forth because of the skin, it's just not a good environment for avoiding an injury. I would probably get injured. So loose skin is definitely there. It's definitely in the way, and it's definitely something I want to get rid of and address or get through this year. Hoping this year. Really hoping this year.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see how that goes. It's one of those things I have on my bucket list to do. Like you, the stomach thing doesn't bother me nearly as much as my breast. It's like, that drives me freaking crazy. That was the only one thing I hated about when I was on Biggest Loser, was like, oh my God, I got to take my shirt off. This is not a pretty picture. And I have a scar on my stomach, which people thought I had gastric bypass surgery, but that was just because you and I have similar birth stories, in the sense that you were a butterball at 11 pounds on Thanksgiving, and I was the first Biggest Loser because I was born like 8.5 pounds, which wasn't, you beat me on that once again, but I was 8.5 pounds, and in 2 weeks' time I lost half my body weight because my intestines were twisted, and I couldn't keep food down, so I literally lost half my body. I got down to 4 pounds in 2 weeks. So it was a massive weight loss. So I showed them that I could come back and still be alive, and then, you know, get over 400 pounds. So We have interesting birth stories about that, but
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
it kind of sets that. It kind of sets up in your mind like you're unusual from birth, so it's interesting.
Yeah. And I
Um,
celebrate the Thanksgiving birthday every, I think, 3 or 4 years. So it's always, that's right, I was a butterball and I when I was born. So it's always a fun reminder. I mean, shout out to my mom. I think she went through like 72 hours of labor. That might be, but she went through a lot of labor, and I was a big baby. I was a big baby.
yeah, definitely. How tall are you again?
6'3".
Okay, yeah, you're tall. You've got all that going on. So, Dusty, once again, thank you so much for just being who you've been to so many people, because I know you've reached out and touched lots of lives. And I think if I could offer anything to anybody, I mean, I think anybody that's watched this today or go back and watches anything that you've been in or what you've written about, you're one of those kinds of people that can really help others see what's possible for them. And that's what I love about your story. Is it's not a weight loss story. It's truly like the finding a way story is so big. And you have, beyond that losing the weight, you've gone beyond the scale and you've created a life that's really, you're living well and doing the kind of things that people like to do. But like you said, I mean, it's not simple. It's not easy. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy at times. But I think for a person to make a change, they need to find somebody like you that they can watch and listen to. Because I don't know about you, but there's very few people that I've run into that do this well by themselves. You got to find other people like yourself that you can be inspired by. So
Yeah,
I'm going to go
I
ahead.
think it's super important to find those on the journey that are starting. You see a lot of folks ask, how did you start? Or, you see weight loss transformations. How did you start? I think surrounding yourself with folks that have started like you is important. But even if someone hasn't started like you, finding those that are maintaining is important, because they'll have messages on how to hold on to that weight loss for a long period of time. Because I think now, been sharing on social media for about 4 years, I've seen a lot of stories where folks have lost the weight, and then also folks who have lost the weight, gain some notoriety, and then gain the weight back as well. So there are lessons in losing the weight, but there's lessons also in maintaining that weight, and gravitating towards those that have maintained it will only benefit us. And I think that's what I try to share on social media is, losing the weight is good, and it's difficult, but also know that at some point maintaining that weight loss is going to be just as hard, if not harder. And so really learning the lessons along the way. And if it takes longer, good, because the longer you have to learn what it's going to be like to hold on to that weight loss, the better. And quickly getting that weight off, how much are you going to learn in that quick weight loss that's going to help you hold on to that weight loss long term? So just very grateful to be able to share, and thank you for having me on and being able to help motivate, help inspire, and just help relate with the fact that, I wasn't born with abs, and I wasn't born fit or with a metabolism that would allow me to eat whatever I want and not gain any weight. Because I know a lot of folks, and I grew up with a lot of folks in the schoolyard that could eat whatever they wanted and nothing would ever be gained. But that's not my story. And so learning along the way and trying to relate and convey hope is just kind of the big mission for me. And I'm grateful so far how much it's reached.
So where's the best place for people to find you?
Instagram for sure. I've tried other social media outlets, but because of my 9 to 5, I've tried to consolidate in a way of sharing a message that is the clearest and in one kind of single area. I will pop up on, say, Twitter sometimes, but Instagram is going to be my main kind of place where I share stories on my day-to-day process. Meals and workouts that I do are typically on stories. And then relatable content, hopefully funny content that's posted and shared, before and after photos. Stuff like that on Instagram. Instagram is constantly changing. They're really moving toward more as a video platform similar to TikTok. So me putting out a little bit more videos to try to relate with the journey is kind of where it's at for me. So Instagram definitely is where I'm at mostly.
That's great. Dustin, you froze there for a moment, so we're gonna fix that. Just that little last part. It wasn't you. Some reason you froze and then you went black. It's almost like you're creating an Instagram post there. So you went like it goes, now you come back. So let's just run that last part. So Dusty, what's the best place for people to find you? Where should they find you?
Instagram is going to be the best place. I create a lot of content on Instagram to either try to relate with the journey or to try to provide helpful information. I post a lot of my meals and workouts and the stories, and then my posts are, dealing with the everyday things that we deal with. One of the recent ones is after leg day, you're very sore. So I tried to convey how painful it is just to sit down. So Instagram is going to be my main source. I will have a couple of comments and threads on Twitter, but mainly if you want to follow the journey and kind of see where my journey is taking me, Instagram is going to be it.
Great. Thanks again, Dusty. And looking forward to having you back another time because
Yes,
I'm sure based upon what you've done, there'll be other antics you'll be up to, and I'll be wanting to have you come back on and share what those things are. So thanks again.
Yes,
Thank you.
that would be awesome. Thank you so much for having me.